Child Protective Services contacted me about being a father to a girl I'd never met, so I decided to take emergency custody, but my whole family turned on me, said I was being irresponsible, and my parents refused to accept her as part of the family. I'm a 42-year-old man who has been clean from alcohol for 8 years. I work at a warehouse and live alone in a small apartment. My life is simple and predictable, which is exactly how I like it after the chaos of my drinking years. Last Tuesday, I got a call from someone named Josie who said she was from Child Protective Services. She asked if I knew someone called Lisa Rodriguez. The name hit me like a truck. Lisa was someone I knew during my worst drinking period about 12 years ago. We were together for maybe 6 months before I got arrested for drunk driving and spent 4 months in jail. When I got out, she was gone. Josie told me Lisa had a daughter named Sophia who was 11 years old. Sophia had been removed from her mother's care because Lisa was using drugs and couldn't take care of her properly. Then Josie dropped the bomb. My name was listed as Sophia's father on her birth certificate and all her school records. I told Josie this was the first I was hearing about any of this. She said it happens more often than people think. The mother puts down a name when the child is born, and unless someone contests it legally, the state accepts it. Since I was in jail when Sophia was born and Lisa never told me about her, I had no way of knowing. Josie gave me 2 options. I could take emergency custody of Sophia, or she would go into foster care. She said they had been looking for any family members for months but couldn't find anyone else. Lisa's parents were dead, and her sister wanted nothing to do with the situation. I asked Josie about getting a DNA test to make sure Sophia was really mine. She said the birth certificate was enough legal proof, but I could get one if I wanted. I told her I needed time to think, but she said I had to decide by the end of the week because Sophia was currently staying with a temporary foster family. I spent 3 days thinking about it. The math worked out. If Sophia was 11 and I was with Lisa about 12 years ago, the timing made sense. But taking in a kid I'd never met seemed crazy. I barely make enough money to support myself, let alone a child. My brother Mike, 45M, called me that Thursday. Somehow he had heard about the situation from our cousin who works at the courthouse. Mike told me I was being stupid and that this wasn't my problem. He said Lisa probably put down multiple men's names and I was just the unlucky one who got tracked down first. He said I should refuse custody and let the kid go to foster care. My sister Carol, 38F, had the opposite reaction. She said I had a responsibility to at least meet Sophia and see if she was really mine. Carol has 2 kids of her own and said no child should be in foster care if they have family who can take them. I decided to meet Sophia before making my final decision. Josie arranged for me to visit her at the temporary foster home on Friday afternoon. The foster mother, Mrs. Patterson, was nice but clearly overwhelmed. She had 3 other kids in her care and seemed relieved when I showed up. Sophia was small for her age, with dark hair and brown eyes. She was quiet and stayed close to Mrs. Patterson at first. When Josie introduced me as her father, Sophia just stared at me. I asked her a few questions about school and what she liked to do. She answered in short sentences but didn't seem scared, just cautious. Mrs. Patterson pulled me aside and said Sophia was a good kid who didn't cause any trouble. She said Sophia helped with the younger kids and always cleaned up after herself. But she also said Sophia had nightmares sometimes and would wake up asking for her mother. I asked Sophia if she wanted to come live with me. She shrugged and said she didn't know me yet. I told her that was fair and asked what she would want in a new home. She said she wanted her own room and to be able to go to the same school. I told her I could probably make that happen. That night I called Josie and said I would take custody. She sounded relieved and said she would start the paperwork. She also told me about something called kinship care payments, which was money the state gives to relatives who take in kids who would otherwise be in foster care. It wasn't much, but it would help with food and clothes. Mike called me again that weekend and said I was making a huge mistake. He said I didn't know anything about raising kids and that Sophia would probably have serious problems from being neglected. He said our parents raised us wrong and I would just mess up another kid. This led to a big argument where he said I was being selfish and trying to play hero. Carol offered to help me get ready for Sophia. She took me shopping for basic things like sheets, towels, and some clothes. She also gave me a list of things I would need to do, like enrolling Sophia in school and finding a pediatrician. The amount of stuff seemed overwhelming. I had to take time off work to handle all the paperwork and appointments. My boss wasn't happy about it, but I explained the situation and he said he would work with me. I used up most of my vacation days in the first 2 weeks. The hardest part was explaining to Sophia why her mother wasn't coming back anytime soon. Josie had told me Lisa was in jail and facing serious drug charges. I tried to explain it in a way that didn't make Lisa sound like a terrible person, but Sophia asked a lot of questions I couldn't answer. Sophia moved in with me on a Sunday in early October. I had bought her a small dresser and a bed for the spare room. She brought 1 garbage bag of clothes and a stuffed rabbit that was missing an ear. She walked around the apartment for about an hour, checking everything out, then sat on the couch and asked when dinner was. The first few weeks were rough. Sophia was used to taking care of herself, which was good in some ways but also made me realize how much she had been neglected. She knew how to do laundry and make simple meals, but she had never been read to at bedtime or helped with homework. She also hoarded food in her room, which Josie said was normal for kids who had been hungry before. I had to learn everything from scratch. I didn't know what size clothes she wore or what food she liked. I didn't know her schedule or her teachers' names. I felt like I was pretending to be a parent and doing a bad job at it. The school situation was complicated. Sophia's old school was across town, and the bus route would take over an hour each way. I wanted to transfer her to the elementary school near my apartment, but she begged me not to. She said she didn't want to lose her friends and start over again. I agreed to drive her to her old school for the rest of the year, even though it meant leaving for work later and picking her up early. My family's reaction got worse over time. Mike stopped calling me altogether. Carol tried to be supportive, but she made comments about how I didn't know what I was doing. She offered to take Sophia for weekends, but when I brought it up, Sophia said she didn't want to go to someone else's house. She said she was tired of sleeping in different places. The biggest shock came when I got a call from my parents. They live in Arizona and I hadn't talked to them in months. Somehow, they had heard about Sophia, probably from Mike or Carol. My mother said she was disappointed in me for taking on someone else's problem. My father said I should have gotten a lawyer before agreeing to anything. They both said I was being taken advantage of and that Sophia would just cause me trouble. This hurt more than I expected. I had thought my parents would be excited about having a granddaughter, but instead they acted like Sophia was some kind of burden I should get rid of. They didn't even want to meet her or talk to her on the phone. The money situation was tight even with the kinship payments. Sophia needed school supplies, winter clothes, and a bunch of other things I hadn't thought of. I had to put some expenses on credit cards, which stressed me out because I'd worked hard to pay off my debts after getting sober. By November, I was exhausted and wondering if Mike had been right. Sophia was a good kid, but taking care of her was harder than I had imagined. She still had nightmares and would wake me up in the middle of the night. She was behind in some subjects at school and needed extra help with homework. And she asked about her mother constantly, wanting to know when she could visit or call. I finally decided to get the DNA test, partly to satisfy my own curiosity and partly because I thought it might help Sophia feel more secure. I ordered a kit online and we both did the swab test. The results would take about 2 weeks. While we waited for the results, I started to notice small changes in Sophia. She was talking more at dinner and asking me questions about my job and my childhood. She also started leaving her bedroom door open at night, which Mrs. Patterson had said was a good sign that she was feeling safer. But the stress was affecting my work and my health. I was drinking more coffee and sleeping less. My supervisor noticed and asked if everything was okay. I told him about the situation, and he said the company had an employee assistance program that might help, but I would have to look into it on my own time. The DNA results came back on a Thursday. I opened the envelope while Sophia was at school. The test confirmed that I was her biological father. I stared at the paper for a long time, trying to process what this meant. Sophia really was my daughter, and I was her only family. That night I showed Sophia the results. She read the paper carefully and asked me what it meant. I told her it meant we were definitely family and that she didn't have to worry about being sent away. She nodded and asked if she could keep the paper in her room. I said yes. The next week, Josie called with news about Lisa. She had been offered a plea deal that would put her in a drug treatment program instead of prison, but she had refused it. Josie said Lisa would probably be in jail for at least 2 more years, maybe longer if she got in trouble while she was there. I asked Josie if I should tell Sophia about the plea deal. She said it was up to me, but that Sophia should know her mother had chosen not to get help. I decided to wait and see if Sophia asked about her mother first. This whole situation has turned my life upside down. I went from being a single man with a simple routine to being a father with responsibilities I never wanted. My family thinks I'm crazy, my finances are strained, and I'm constantly worried about whether I'm doing the right thing for Sophia. But I can't just abandon her now. She's my daughter, and she doesn't have anyone else. I just wish I knew what I was doing and that my family would be more supportive instead of acting like Sophia is some kind of problem to be solved. I don't know what I'm asking for here. Maybe just to vent to people who won't judge me for taking in a kid I never knew existed. Or maybe someone has been through something similar and can tell me it gets easier. Update 1: the DNA test results changed everything, but not in the way I expected. After I showed Sophia the paper confirming I was her father, she started asking me questions about my life before I met her. She wanted to know about my childhood, my job, and why I had been in jail when she was born. I tried to explain my drinking problem in terms she could understand. I told her that I used to drink too much alcohol and it made me make bad decisions. I said I got in trouble with the police because I drove a car when I shouldn't have, and that's why I went to jail. I also told her that I stopped drinking completely after I got out and hadn't had any alcohol in 8 years. Sophia listened carefully and then asked if her mother had the same problem but with drugs instead of alcohol. I said yes, and that some people have a harder time stopping than others. She asked if she would have the same problem when she grew up. I told her I didn't know, but that we would make sure she learned to make good choices. This conversation seemed to help Sophia understand why her mother wasn't around and why she was living with me now. She stopped asking when she could see Lisa and started asking about my family instead. She wanted to know about my parents and siblings, and whether they wanted to meet her. I had to tell her that my parents lived far away and that my brother and sister had mixed feelings about our situation. Sophia asked why they didn't want to meet her, and I struggled to explain it without making her feel unwanted. I said some people need time to adjust to big changes, which was true but not the whole truth. The school situation got more complicated in December. Sophia's teacher, Mrs. Martinez, called me for a conference. She said Sophia was struggling with math and reading comprehension, and that she thought Sophia might benefit from extra help. Mrs. Martinez also said Sophia seemed tired in class and asked if she was getting enough sleep at home. I told Mrs. Martinez about the nightmares and the big changes in Sophia's life. She was understanding but said the school could provide tutoring if I filled out some paperwork. She also suggested that Sophia might benefit from talking to the school counselor about her situation. When I brought up the counselor idea with Sophia, she got upset. She said she didn't want to talk to strangers about her problems and that she was fine. I didn't push it, but I did sign up for the tutoring program. Around this time, I started having problems with my brother Mike. He called me one night and said he had heard from our cousin that I was getting money from the state to take care of Sophia. He accused me of taking her in for the payments, which made me angry. I told him the kinship payments barely covered Sophia's expenses and that I was still spending my own money on things she needed. Mike said he didn't believe me and that I was probably getting more money than I was admitting. He said I had always been irresponsible with money and that I was probably seeing Sophia as a way to get free cash. This led to a big argument where I told him he didn't know what he was talking about and that he had no right to judge me. The argument with Mike got back to my sister Carol somehow. She called me a few days later and said she was concerned about the tension in the family. She said she supported my decision to take Sophia in, but that she thought I should be more transparent about the financial arrangements. I was frustrated because I felt like my family was more concerned about money than about Sophia's well-being. I had been open about the kinship payments from the beginning, and I wasn't hiding anything. The payments were about $400 a month, which sounds like a lot but doesn't go far when you're feeding and clothing a kid. Carol offered to help mediate between me and Mike, but I told her I didn't want to discuss it anymore. I said Mike could believe whatever he wanted, but that I wasn't going to defend myself to him constantly. Sophia overheard part of one of these phone conversations and asked me why my family was mad at me. I tried to explain that adults sometimes disagree about things, but that it didn't mean anyone was bad. She asked if it was because of her, and I told her it had nothing to do with her personally. But Sophia seemed to understand more than I gave her credit for. She asked if my family would like her better if she wasn't living with me. I told her that wasn't how families worked and that she belonged with me now. She seemed satisfied with that answer, but I could tell she was thinking about it. In January, I got a call from Josie about Lisa. She said Lisa had been in a fight with another inmate and was being moved to a different facility. Josie also said Lisa had been asking about Sophia and wanted to know if she could write her letters. I wasn't sure how to handle this. On one hand, I thought Sophia should be able to have contact with her mother if she wanted to. On the other hand, I was worried that letters from Lisa might upset Sophia or give her false hope about Lisa getting out soon. I decided to ask Sophia what she wanted. She said she wanted to get letters from her mother, but only if I could read them first. She said she was worried her mother might say things that would make her sad or confused. I thought this was a mature way to handle it, so I agreed. The first letter from Lisa arrived in February. It was only one page long and mostly talked about how much Lisa missed Sophia and how sorry she was for not being a good mother. Lisa also said she was trying to get better and hoped to see Sophia again someday. The letter didn't mention me at all. Sophia read the letter twice and then asked if she could write back. I said yes, but that I would help her if she wanted. She wrote a short letter telling Lisa about her new school and that she was living with me now. She also said she missed Lisa but that she was doing okay. This started a regular correspondence between Sophia and Lisa. The letters came about once a month, and they were always short and fairly positive. Lisa would tell Sophia about books she was reading or classes she was taking in jail. Sophia would tell Lisa about school and things we did together. I noticed that Sophia seemed happier after getting letters from her mother. She would carry them around for a few days and read them multiple times. But she also seemed more settled in our routine and less anxious about her future. The tutoring at school was helping Sophia catch up in her subjects. Her math grades improved, and she started reading more at home. I bought her some books that were at her level, and she would read them to me in the evenings. This became one of our regular activities. Around this time, I started having problems at work. My supervisor, Mr. Chen, called me into his office and said I had been taking too much time off for appointments and school meetings. He said he understood I had a new responsibility, but that I needed to find a way to handle it without affecting my work schedule. I explained that most of Sophia's appointments were only available during school hours, and that I didn't have anyone else who could take her. Mr. Chen said the company was willing to work with me, but that I might need to consider using the family leave policy, which would mean taking unpaid time off. This created a new financial stress. I couldn't afford to take unpaid leave, but I also couldn't neglect Sophia's needs. I started trying to schedule appointments after work or during my lunch breaks, but this didn't always work out. The situation with my family got worse in March. My parents decided to visit Carol for Easter, and she invited me and Sophia to join them. I thought this would be a good opportunity for my parents to meet Sophia and see that she was a normal kid who just needed a stable home. But the visit was a disaster. My parents were polite to Sophia but distant. They didn't ask her any questions about school or her interests. They also made comments to me about how expensive it must be to raise a child and how I was probably in over my head. The worst part was when my mother pulled me aside and said she was worried about Sophia's influence on me. She said Sophia came from a bad background and might have problems I couldn't handle. She also said she was concerned that taking care of Sophia was preventing me from having a normal life and maybe meeting someone to settle down with. I told my mother that Sophia was my daughter and that I wasn't going to abandon her. I said I was disappointed in their attitude and that I had expected them to be more welcoming. My mother said she was just being realistic and that I was being too emotional about the situation. Sophia could tell that something was wrong during the visit. She was quiet and stayed close to me. After we left, she asked if my parents didn't like her. I told her they were just not used to having kids around, but she seemed to know that wasn't the whole truth. The visit with my parents made me realize that I couldn't count on my family for support. Mike was still barely speaking to me, Carol was trying to stay neutral but was clearly torn, and my parents saw Sophia as a problem rather than their granddaughter. This was harder than I had expected. I had thought that once my family met Sophia and saw what a good kid she was, they would come around. Instead, it seemed like they were more convinced than ever that I had made a mistake. Sophia and I started spending more time together on weekends. We would go to the park or the library, and I would take her to movies that were appropriate for her age. These outings were good for both of us, but they also made me realize how isolated we had become from extended family. By April, I was starting to feel like I was getting the hang of being a parent. Sophia's grades were improving, she was sleeping better, and she seemed more confident and outgoing. But I was also dealing with a reality that my family relationships had been damaged, possibly permanently. The letters from Lisa continued to arrive regularly, but in one of them, Lisa mentioned that she was eligible for parole in about a year. This made me nervous because I wasn't sure what would happen if Lisa got out and wanted Sophia back. I decided I needed to talk to a lawyer about my rights as Sophia's father. Update 2: the lawyer consultation in May changed my perspective on everything. The attorney, Ms. Rodriguez, explained that because my name was on Sophia's birth certificate and I had been caring for her for several months, I had legal rights as her father. However, she also warned me that if Lisa got out of jail and wanted to challenge custody, it could become complicated. Ms. Rodriguez said the best thing I could do was to start the process of getting full legal custody of Sophia. This would involve going to court and possibly having a social worker evaluate my home and parenting situation. She said it would cost about $2,000 in legal fees, which was money I didn't have. I decided to wait and see what happened with Lisa's situation before spending money on a lawyer. But I started keeping detailed records of everything I did for Sophia, including doctor appointments, school meetings, and activities we did together. Around this time, Sophia started asking more questions about my family. She had noticed that we didn't get phone calls from my parents or visits from my brother. She asked if it was normal for families to not talk to each other, and I had to explain that sometimes adults have disagreements that are hard to fix. Sophia seemed to understand, but she also started making comments about how she wished she had grandparents who wanted to see her. She would see other kids at school talking about visits with their grandparents and ask why she couldn't have the same thing. In June, I got a call from Josie with bad news. Lisa had been found with drugs in her cell and was facing new charges. This meant her possible parole date was pushed back by at least another year, maybe 2. Josie said this was actually good news for my situation because it meant Lisa wouldn't be getting out anytime soon. I wasn't sure how to feel about this. On one hand, it meant I wouldn't have to worry about a custody battle in the near future. On the other hand, it meant Sophia's mother was getting in more trouble and moving further away from being able to get her life together. When I told Sophia about the situation, she was quiet for a long time. Then she asked if her mother was ever going to get better. I told her I didn't know, but that we should hope for the best while being realistic about what might happen. Sophia's behavior changed after this conversation. She stopped asking about visiting her mother and seemed less interested in writing letters. When I asked if she wanted to write to Lisa, she said she didn't know what to say anymore. The summer was challenging because Sophia was out of school and I had to figure out childcare while I was at work. Carol offered to watch Sophia some days, but Sophia said she would rather go to the community center's day program. I signed her up for the program, which cost $150 a week but was cheaper than hiring a babysitter. The day program was good for Sophia. She made friends with other kids and participated in activities like swimming and arts and crafts. She also started playing soccer, which she had never done before but really enjoyed. In July, I got a surprise call from my brother Mike. He said he had been thinking about our argument and wanted to talk. We met for coffee while Sophia was at the day program, and he apologized for some of the things he had said. He said he still thought I had taken on more than I could handle, but that he could see Sophia was doing well. Mike asked if he could meet Sophia properly, not just the brief introduction at Carol's house. I was hesitant because I didn't want Sophia to get attached to him if he was just going to disappear again. But I agreed to let him come over for dinner one night. The dinner went better than I expected. Mike brought Sophia a book about soccer and asked her about the day program. Sophia was shy at first but warmed up when Mike started telling her funny stories about things I did when I was a kid. By the end of the evening, Sophia was laughing and asking Mike to tell her more stories. After Sophia went to bed, Mike and I had a long conversation about the situation. He admitted that he had been jealous of the attention Sophia was getting from our family and worried that I was making a mistake that would hurt both of us. He said he realized he had been selfish and that Sophia deserved to have family who supported her. This conversation with Mike was a turning point. He started calling regularly and would sometimes take Sophia to the park or to get ice cream. Sophia loved having an uncle who paid attention to her, and I was grateful for the help and support. However, the situation with my parents got worse. When they found out that Mike was spending time with Sophia, they called and said they were disappointed in him too. They said the whole family was enabling my poor decision-making and that we were all going to regret it. My mother said she was especially upset because she felt like I was replacing the family I grew up with a new family that included Sophia. She said I was being disloyal to the people who had raised me and supported me through my drinking problems. This accusation hurt because it wasn't true. I wasn't trying to replace anyone or create a new family. I was just trying to take care of my daughter and give her the stable home she deserved. I told my mother this, but she said I was being naive and that Sophia would eventually cause problems that would affect the whole family. In August, Sophia started asking about her mother again. She wanted to know if she could visit Lisa in jail. I looked into it and found out that children under 12 couldn't visit unless they were accompanied by an approved adult and went through a special process. I wasn't sure if visiting Lisa would be good for Sophia or not. On one hand, she hadn't seen her mother in almost a year and might benefit from the contact. On the other hand, visiting someone in jail could be traumatic for a kid, and I was worried about how it might affect Sophia's progress. I decided to ask Sophia what she wanted to do. She said she wanted to see her mother but was scared about going to the jail. I told her we could try it once and see how it went, but that if it was too upsetting, we wouldn't do it again. The visit process was complicated. I had to fill out forms, get background checks, and attend an orientation meeting. The jail also required that Sophia meet with a social worker before the visit to make sure she understood where she was going and what to expect. The visit was scheduled for a Saturday morning in September. Sophia was nervous and asked a lot of questions about what the jail would look like and how long we would stay. I tried to prepare her as much as possible, but I was nervous too. When we arrived at the jail, Sophia held my hand tightly while we went through security. The visiting room was crowded and loud, with families sitting at small tables talking to inmates. Sophia looked around with wide eyes and asked if we could leave. I told her we could stay for just a few minutes to say hello to her mother, and then we would go. When Lisa was brought out, Sophia barely recognized her. Lisa had lost weight and looked older than her 34 years. She was also more emotional than I expected, crying when she saw Sophia and trying to hug her through the plexiglass barrier. The visit lasted about 30 minutes. Lisa asked Sophia about school and told her how much she missed her. Sophia answered questions but seemed uncomfortable and kept looking at me. Lisa also asked me about our living situation and thanked me for taking care of Sophia. When we left, Sophia was quiet for a long time. Finally, she asked if her mother looked sick. I told her that being in jail was hard on people and that her mother was probably not as healthy as she could be. Sophia said she didn't want to visit again because it made her sad. I agreed that we wouldn't visit again unless Sophia changed her mind. I also started to understand that Sophia was moving on from her old life and building a new one with me. The visit had shown her that her mother was still struggling and wasn't in a position to take care of her. In September, Sophia started 5th grade at her old school. She was excited about being one of the older kids and had made good friends in her class. Her teacher, Mr. Thompson, called me after the first week to say that Sophia seemed confident and well-adjusted. Around this time, I started thinking about the future differently. Instead of seeing Sophia as a temporary responsibility, I began planning for her long-term needs. I started a small savings account for her college fund and looked into activities she might want to try, like music lessons or art classes. Sophia expressed interest in learning to play the guitar, so I found a teacher who gave lessons at the community center. Sophia practiced every day and picked it up quickly. She would play simple songs for me in the evenings, and I could see how proud she was of her progress. The guitar lessons led to Sophia performing in a small recital at the community center in October. She was nervous but excited, and she played a song she had learned perfectly. I invited Mike and Carol to come watch, and they were both impressed with how well Sophia did. After the recital, Sophia asked if my parents would want to hear her play guitar. I had to explain that my parents lived too far away to come to her performances, but that I could record her playing and send them a video. I did make a recording, but I never sent it to my parents because I knew they wouldn't respond positively. This conversation made me realize that Sophia was still hoping for a relationship with her grandparents, even though they had shown no interest in her. I started to think about how to handle this situation in a way that wouldn't hurt Sophia's feelings but also wouldn't give her false hope. The financial situation was getting more manageable. I had received a small raise at work, and the kinship payments were covering more of Sophia's expenses as I learned to budget better. I was also able to pay off some of the credit card debt I had accumulated in the first few months. However, I was still worried about the legal situation. Lisa's letters had become less frequent, and Josie had told me that Lisa was having more problems in jail. I started to think that I should go ahead and file for full custody, even if it meant taking on more debt. Update 3: The custody hearing finally happened in March, almost 2 years after Sophia first came to live with me. Ms. Rodriguez had been right about the cost. Between legal fees and court costs, the whole process ended up costing about $2,500. I had to borrow money from my retirement account to pay for it, but I knew it was necessary. Lisa didn't contest the custody petition. Josie told me that Lisa had been moved to a different facility again after another incident and was facing additional charges. Her earliest possible release date was now pushed back to at least 4 more years, assuming she didn't get in any more trouble. The judge awarded me full legal custody of Sophia. The hearing was short and straightforward since Lisa didn't appear and there was no one arguing against the custody change. Sophia didn't have to testify, but she did have to meet with a court-appointed advocate who spoke with the judge privately. When I told Sophia about the custody decision, she asked what it meant for her daily life. I explained that it meant she would definitely stay with me and that no one could take her away. She seemed relieved and said she was glad she didn't have to worry about being moved to another home. The relationship with my parents never improved. They called me once after the custody hearing and said they were disappointed that I had made the situation permanent. My mother said she had hoped I would come to my senses and realize I wasn't cut out to be a single parent. That conversation was the last time I talked to my parents. They stopped calling, and I stopped reaching out to them. Sophia eventually stopped asking about her grandparents, and I stopped making excuses for why they weren't involved in her life. Mike continued to be a good uncle to Sophia. He started taking her to soccer games and helped her with school projects. Sophia clearly enjoyed having a male relative who was interested in her life. Carol also remained supportive, though she was always careful not to take sides in the family conflicts. The situation with Lisa became more complicated in the spring. Josie called me to say that Lisa had been hospitalized after an incident in jail and was in serious condition. The details weren't clear, but it seemed like Lisa had been hurt in a fight with other inmates. I had to decide whether to tell Sophia about her mother's hospitalization. I chose to wait and see what happened rather than worry her about something that might not be serious. Josie said she would keep me updated on Lisa's condition. 2 weeks later, Josie called with news that Lisa had died in the hospital. The official cause was complications from internal injuries, but Josie said there might be an investigation into what exactly happened. She said I would need to make decisions about funeral arrangements since I was Sophia's legal guardian. This was the hardest conversation I ever had to have with Sophia. I sat her down after school and told her that her mother had died. Sophia stared at me for a long time without saying anything. Then she asked if it was because of the drugs. I told her it was because her mother got hurt in jail, but that the drugs had put her in a situation where she couldn't protect herself. Sophia cried for a few minutes, then asked if we could get pizza for dinner. I was surprised by how quickly she seemed to move on, but I realized that Sophia had already been grieving the loss of her mother for a long time. Lisa had been absent from Sophia's life for almost 2 years, and Sophia had adjusted to not having her around. The funeral was small. I paid for a basic service, and Mike and Carol came to support Sophia. Sophia wanted to say something at the service, so she read a short letter she had written to her mother. She thanked Lisa for giving birth to her and said she hoped Lisa was in a better place now. After the funeral, Sophia seemed to close the chapter on her life with Lisa. She stopped talking about her mother and focused on her current activities and friends. She also started calling me Dad instead of by my first name, which she had been doing since she moved in with me. The school situation improved significantly. Sophia's grades were good, and she was involved in several activities. She continued with guitar lessons and also joined the school's art club. Her teacher said she was well liked by her classmates and showed good leadership skills. In the summer, Sophia went to a sleepaway camp for 2 weeks. This was the first time we had been apart for more than a day since she moved in with me. I was worried about how she would handle being away from home, but she had a great time and made friends with kids from other schools. The camp experience showed me that Sophia was becoming more independent and confident. She was no longer the scared, quiet kid who had moved in with me 2 years earlier. She was outgoing and curious about the world around her. My work situation also improved. Mr. Chen retired, and the new supervisor was more understanding about my family responsibilities. The company also implemented a more flexible schedule policy, which made it easier for me to handle Sophia's appointments and school events. Financially, things became more stable. I had paid off the debt from the legal fees and was able to start saving money again. Sophia's expenses were predictable now, and I had learned to budget for things like school supplies, clothes, and activities. Sophia started middle school in the fall, which was a big transition. She was nervous about changing schools and having multiple teachers, but she adapted quickly. She joined the school band and continued with her guitar lessons. She also made new friends and seemed excited about the increased independence that came with being in middle school. Around this time, Sophia started asking questions about dating and relationships. She had noticed that some of her friends had crushes and wanted to know about my dating life. I told her I wasn't seeing anyone and was focused on taking care of her. She said she thought it might be nice if I found someone to marry so she could have a stepmom. This conversation made me realize that Sophia was thinking about our family structure and what it might look like in the future. She seemed secure in our relationship but also curious about whether it might expand to include other people. The legal situation with Lisa's death created some paperwork complications. I had to deal with her estate, which mostly consisted of debts and a few personal items that were in storage. I decided to keep a few photographs and a piece of jewelry that might be meaningful to Sophia when she got older. Mike suggested that I should consider dating now that Sophia was older and more settled. He said Sophia seemed stable enough that I could start thinking about my own social life again. But I wasn't ready for that kind of change, and I didn't want to complicate Sophia's life with new relationships. By the end of Sophia's first year in middle school, I realized that we had built a solid life together. She was doing well academically and socially, and our routine felt natural rather than forced. Sophia had her own interests and friends, but she still enjoyed spending time with me on weekends. The relationship with my parents remained non-existent. They had missed Sophia's entire childhood so far, and I had stopped expecting them to change their minds. Sophia had also stopped asking about them, which suggested she had accepted that some family relationships just weren't going to happen. Carol remained a supportive aunt to Sophia. She would take Sophia shopping for clothes and included her in family activities with her own children. Sophia enjoyed having cousins to spend time with, and Carol's kids seemed to like having an older cousin around. Looking back on the past 2.5 years, I can see how much both Sophia and I have changed. When she first moved in with me, I was focused on just getting through each day and making sure her basic needs were met. Now I think about her future and what kind of person she's becoming. Sophia has grown from a scared, quiet kid into a confident teenager who knows what she likes and isn't afraid to express her opinions. She still has some effects from her early childhood experiences, but she has developed coping skills and doesn't seem to be held back by her past. The family situation taught me that blood relationships don't automatically mean support and understanding. Mike and Carol chose to be part of Sophia's life, while my parents chose not to. Sophia has learned to value the people who show up for her rather than waiting for people who don't. I never planned to be a single father, and there were many times in the first year when I wondered if I had made the right choice. But seeing Sophia thrive and knowing that she has a stable home has convinced me that taking custody was the right decision. The financial stress was real, and there were times when I wasn't sure we would make it work. But we found ways to manage, and the kinship payments helped bridge the gap until I could adjust my budget and lifestyle. Sophia still writes in a journal that she started keeping after her mother died. She doesn't share what she writes, but I think it helps her process her thoughts and feelings. She also talks to the school counselor occasionally, which seems to be beneficial. We have established traditions that are just ours. We still go to the library every Tuesday, and Sophia still reads to me in the evenings sometimes. We also have movie nights on Fridays and try new restaurants on special occasions. The custody situation is permanently settled now. Sophia knows that she will stay with me until she's an adult and that no one can change that. This security has allowed her to focus on normal teenage concerns like friends, school, and activities rather than worrying about where she will live. I have no regrets about taking custody of Sophia, despite the family conflicts and financial stress it caused. She needed a stable home, and I was able to provide that. In return, she has made my life more meaningful and given me a reason to plan for the future. The people who said I was making a mistake were wrong. Sophia wasn't a burden or a problem to be solved. She was a kid who needed a parent, and I was able to be that parent. The rest of the family drama was just noise that eventually faded away. Sophia is now 14 and doing well in high school. She plays guitar in the school jazz band and is considering trying out for the soccer team. She has close friends and good grades, and she seems to have a clear sense of who she is and what she wants. I'm proud of the person Sophia is becoming and grateful that I had the opportunity to be part of raising her. Taking custody was the best decision I ever made, even though it wasn't easy and even though it cost me some family relationships that I thought were important. Sophia and I are a family now, just the two of us. We don't need anyone else's approval or support to make that real.